We want to talk about using SharePoint agents for business scenarios. And what this means is that we're going to walk through a bit about recapping what is the SharePoint agents, but then let's have a real business scenario, how the SharePoint agents can be used on the day-to-day life to make your life easier, your business life, your work life easier, because they are so easy and so fast to use versus all of the additional complexity which you might have when you think about the AI and agents, because SharePoint agents, snap of a finger, and you are good to go. And we're going to see all of this today as well as part of the explanation. Now, really just recapping the baseline on SharePoint agents, we all know that AI transforms how we scale, share, and act on our most crucial asset, which is the knowledge. And especially in Microsoft 365 world, the knowledge is always in SharePoint. If you upload a file in Teams, it is actually SharePoint. If you do a lot of other assets or across the things, assets and resources, they're typically always stored in SharePoint. So the knowledge and information are already in the SharePoint. And the cool thing about SharePoint is that the SharePoint agent is by far the easiest way to create your custom agents in the Microsoft 365 ecosystem, because actually we give you even the starting point of these agents for every single site, but then you can create custom agents, for example, just by adding files to a specific folder in SharePoint, and then you create an agent out of it. You're able to share that agent with your colleague. You are able to have a discussion with that agent in Microsoft Teams. You're able to adjust the agent behavior directly within the SharePoint as well. So it's a super streamlined, super easy to do. Rather than taking the files outside of SharePoint and Microsoft 365, for example, to Azure AI Foundry for analytics and all of that stuff, no, you don't have to do that. For most of the scenarios, the baseline question is, I have files, I have documents, can I have an agent against these files? And answer is 2 clicks and you're good to go. Well, technically 1, but anyway, it's even simpler than that. Now, if you think about the scenarios, what we support in Microsoft 365 on creating custom agents, we do have a spectrum of different options. So we do have the SharePoint agents, which really represent the most simplistic way of creating an agent, because again, you can create those with a click of a button. Technically, 1 click is enough because you will get an agent directly from a folder or a document library with that 1 click. Of course, typically you will adjust that behavior a bit on top of that. Now, we also have the Copilot Studio Lite, which is really easy and guided way of creating agents as well. But you will need to go to the Copilot Studio, or you are in Copilot site, and then you need to associate the different SharePoint sites and sources where that information is coming from. So it's a bit of a different, but not that complex either. And then the Copilot Studio is really the full-fledged, flexible, advanced scenarios. But it's a low-code or a click-through scenarios. It kind of overlaps a bit on the pro-code side as well, but we're trying to kind of simplify the storytelling here. And then we have the Visual Studio storytelling, the Agent Toolkit, Azure Foundry, which is really the pro-code way of creating agents for Microsoft 365 Copilot. And through those agents or through to applications, so you can always access those agents in a multiple different location. Now that I'm saying this out loud, once again, I'm realizing that there are old icons within the slide and I need to get them updated. So I need to really remember to do that. Now, as part of this agent story, we don't want to kind of mix SharePoint custom agents with the knowledge agents. So knowledge agents is something which we actually also provide for you by default for every single SharePoint site. And we're going to talk about this one today within the community call in another demo, a bit more detailed, but knowledge agents is there as well. Now, it's a different thing than the custom agent. Knowledge agents is there to help you contextually to improve your site and information based on where you are within the site. So it provides a different capabilities, for example, for SharePoint pages than it provides for a SharePoint document libraries. But that's always there, and every single site has the knowledge agent. Now, on top of this, we're able to then actually create the SharePoint custom agents, which can be created by selecting the files, selecting the folders, and then by saying, hey, I want to create a custom agent, and you are good to go. But easiest way to understand how the custom agents actually work within the business and the day-to-day world is probably taking a business scenario. So let's actually do that. And let me transition to audio to David. And David's going to walk through a bit of a normal day-to-day use case for SharePoint agents. And then we're going to have a look on today a bit more detailed on knowledge agents as well. But that's after the custom agent scenario. But David, what do you have?
Awesome. Thank you, Vesa. Yeah, friends. So as Vesa mentioned, we're going to focus on some business use cases with SharePoint agents today. And so let's take a look at the company that's going to focus on this for us. So we've developed Contoso Catering, where they fuse fine dining with flawless execution, where Michelin meets machine learning. Who knew that car tires could be so yummy, right? Michelin. Yeah, see what I did? Okay. All right. Let's meet some of the key employees from Contoso Catering. We today are going to focus on Executive Emily and Salesman Sam. So we see stuck in the middle here is me, developer David. I have to make all these people happy, right? So Executive Emily is going to have some requests, and it's going to involve Salesman Sam because in some cases there's overlapping use cases inside of an organization that is driven by necessity for different information shared for different people. What do I mean? Well, let's take a look at the use case. So I'm just sitting at my desk one day and, hey, I'm getting a phone call. Hello? Oh, hey, Emily, how you doing? Okay, what can I help you with? Oh, okay. You want to know if a SharePoint agent can provide one answer to an executive and another answer to a sales executive based on secured policy documents. So what you're saying is that there's one document for executives and there's another document for sales, right? Yes, okay. So we can actually tell it to look at two different places that are secured in two different ways.
I see.
I know, pretty amazing, isn't it? So if you want to secure this for Sam, no problem. It's the same question, different truth. Really, it's just role-based reality, right? So in typical Contoso Catering fashion, it's travel policy served a la permissions, fresh, tailored, and on brand, right? So it's going to be awesome. So let's take a look at what that looks like.
Okay, so let's start here at the Contoso Catering website. This is the home site. This is where all of our documents are stored for the organization. And just to show, we're currently logged in as Emily. Now, Emily is an executive, so she has access to all the executive documents, the travel policy, etc. So we can see that here when we go to site contents. We can see that she does have access. There's executive right there. She also has access to policies and procedures. This is where the travel policy for executives live. This is where the travel policy for the rest of the organization lives that everyone has access to. And we'll look at that for Sam here in a moment. So just to show the information, here's our executive leadership travel policy. So we understand the context. We've got business class or higher is standard for all flights. Great. First class is permitted for any exceeding 4 hours or international travel. Okay, cool. But the sales travel policy here for the rest of the organization, that's a little different. That includes economy standard, and then seat upgrades for first class require sales leadership, but premium class extra legroom is available for those exceeding 2.5 hours. So that's the information we're looking for it to provide in terms of the agent. We want to ensure that it only provides the right information to the right people. Now, just to confirm that we're seeing things accurately, I'm going to come over to Sam's account. So this is a different browser. We're coming over into Sam's browser profile. We see Sam there. When I look at site contents, we see there's no executive. Right. So he does have access to policies and procedures. Great. We're able to access that sales travel policy. We see that right there, sales travel policy. Right. So that's great. And he can access that, but he can't access the executive stuff. Right. So now theoretically, once we create the agent for Emily, then it's going to include references to both of those because we want one single agent, and we want the agent to be smart enough to know to only provide content to those people that are asking who have the proper access. So will it know? Absolutely. Let's go in and start creating our agent. So first thing is it gives us the default agent. We could certainly use that, but we want to create an agent. Now, we could simply click open agent and away we go. And the source is going to use the entire site. But we want to keep it a little bit more simplistic. We want to have a little more focus so it's more aligned with travel information. So we're going to say Contoso Travel, call it that. And we're going to change the logo here. No problem. We'll give it a little bit of character. And then for the description, we're going to just simply say helps employees quickly understand travel policies based on their role and access. So that takes care of the overview. Now under sources, it's already looking at the site. Right, so we have that. We could remove it, but we're not going to. But what we do want to do is we want to scope it to specific document libraries, and we could even go down to the files if we wanted to. But going ahead and setting it to specific libraries is sufficient enough. So I'm going to come in here, and since I'm setting this up as Emily, I have access to executive, and I have access to policies and procedures. So we're going to select both of those items and simply select the button. So now we see those are both listed there. Perfect. So the last thing that we want to do is set up behavior. So there's a few things here. We want a welcome message, which aligns with this over here, right? So that gives us and tells essentially what the user can use in terms of maybe some starter prompts. We'll leave that as it is. But for the starter prompts, we'll change those a little bit. We'll say, can I fly first class? And then we'll say, what's the daily meal allowance for when I travel? And then because we're a tech-centric cooking company, we'll make it a little fun, love games. Third thing here, does blue shirt guy get priority boarding too, right? A little fun here. Now, the last thing is the agent instructions. This is really the instructions where you want to define how your agent should behave. Now, I could simply select what's there and leave it. That's fine. But I'm going to be a little bit more specific. And so extend that, look here, see what it looks like. You're a helpful, knowledgeable SharePoint agent that specializes in answering travel-related policy questions. Provide clear, confident, concise answers, accurate, context-aware. Feel free to use humor, but not be rude. Okay? So now I could test this out before I even save and close it. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to say, can I fly first class? Now it should go work on our request. Behind the scenes, what's happening is it's essentially going in and pulling up our resources. And so it says, yes, hey, you can fly first class, but it depends on your role. Based on the executive travel policy, which it sees I have access to, it lays out what the rules are, and it gives me access to that. Now, it also sees that other policy as well. So it's looking at both, right? And it gives me even the comparison. So an organization or an employee executive is going to know if they're an executive. And so this provides that to them, which is great. Okay, cool. So now I'm going to click Save and Close. And what that's going to do is it's going to save the Copilot agent file. And it's going to save it into the agent file location. It tells you where that is. It's in Site Assets. We don't need to look at that right now. But for now, I'm going to close that. And now you'll notice that over where my default agent was, it has now loaded the travel agent, Contoso Travel. Right? And so I could access that. So now it's live. I can actually come in here and I can say, can I fly first class? I'm using it like I would in a normal situation. But the situation is that it is only available to me right now because I'm the one that created it. I, of course, have access as Emily to that information. Lets me know that when I now ask it, it gives me essentially the same information that I got when I was asking before as I was testing it. So great. But what if I want it to be available for everyone in the organization? Well, there's a few different ways that I could do that. I could click copy link for Teams. I could also include it in Teams, which we'll show in just a few minutes. I can also go in and set as approved. Now, when I set it as approved, it will then show up for other members of the organization. And so let me do that. I'm going to click set as approved, set as an approved agent. Once it's been approved, then I can actually find it inside my site assets under approved, and it'll make it available for other members of the organization. So I can hit OK. And I'm going to close it out here for Emily, and I'm going to come over to Sam now. And I'm in Sam's account, right? So I can see that here now. We're in Sam's account. And I'm just going to now load my SharePoint agents. Because this is asynchronous, I don't even have to refresh the site. I can see now Contoso Travel is showing up. Cool. Okay, so I'm going to go over to that. And now Sam is going to ask, can I fly first class? Now, what's going to happen is I'm going to run this. And what it should do is it should go in and it should essentially ask what is available to Sam. And so behind the scenes, it's going in and saying, okay, well, this agent has access to a few different document libraries, one of which is secured for the executives. But it's going to know that it cannot give him that information because he doesn't have access. There's no security access. So what it's done is it's now trimmed down to just what he can get access to. And we see it's referencing the sales policy, but it's not referencing the executive policy. And that's really super cool because now it doesn't really matter what your situation is if you've set it up. If you set up your document libraries to have proper security and you associate all those document libraries to the agent is not going to break the rules. It's not going to say, well, when that was set up with this particular, when this agent was set up, it was set up by a person that's got access to these. So now everyone has access to these. Nope, it absolutely limits that. And that's super cool. But wait, there's more. That is not the only way that you can consume agents. There's a super cool way to be able to share with teams. Now, if I go back to Emily and I go into my agents, I'm going to go back to the Contoso Travel and I'm going to go up to the agent settings, and I'm going to select copy link for Teams. So now what this allows me to do is I'm able to paste this link into a Teams group chat and add the agent. So then we can actually ask it questions there and then. So I've got a chat going on over here with Sam. Sam had asked me earlier that he was looking for a travel policy. So, hey, Sam, you're asking about travel policy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to paste in my agent and I'm going to hit enter. And now what should happen is the agent starts getting added to the chat, and I approve that. So now I come down here and I say, okay, yep, add this agent to the chat. Super cool. And once it's been added to the chat, I can actually speak to it and reference it just like it's any other person within the chat, which is cool. And it even says, hey, ask a question to get started with one of these prompts. Those are the ones that we gave, right? So now I can come in and I can say, at Contoso Travel shows up here. Great, no problem. And I can say, can I fly first class? Now there's a thing that I'm doing here. I'm asking this as Emily, right? I am currently logged in as Emily. We see that right up here. And so what's it going to do? It has access. I, Emily, have access to the executive document library. So I'm going to let it do its thing. It's going to go off and it's going to start making a request to that agent. And the agent's going to go out and it's going to find that I'm asking for information from a secured location that Sam does not have access to. And what we're going to do is see that it should prompt me to provide approval for Sam to be able to access that information. Now, maybe times where they don't need access to information, but it's not absolutely dangerous for them to have access to that. So we see here it's saying, Emily, Contoso Catering, please review my response before I share the chat. Some people in this chat don't have access to the sources I searched through. All right, so I'm going to select view response, and it's going to tell me essentially, this is what you're trying to share. All right, well, maybe I don't want to do that, right? I could certainly hit send, and if I do, then it would share that information just fine. But if I don't, I'm going to hit don't send. Now I'm going to go back and it's going to say, Emily reviewed my response to the request made and suggested I don't share it at this time. So that's fine. The information didn't get shared. There was no leakage of security data. So I'm going to try it again. And I'm going to say, Contoso Travel, can Sam fly first class? So now I'm asking it again. And what'll happen is it'll actually do the same thing, because I'm kind of verbose. I could be referencing Sam Jackson or some other Sam, Yosemite Sam. And so it doesn't necessarily know who Sam is in this context. Even though I'm in the chat with him, it doesn't actually know who it is. So it's going to ask the exact same thing, right? So there we go, waiting for a response, view response. And so now I'm going to hit don't send. But what can happen is Sam can ask the question. So if I go back to Sam's account and I go on over to chat here, we can see that chat's been going on with Emily, right? So that's all good. So now Sam, who I'm logged in as right now, right? Sam is going to ask, Contoso Travel, can I fly first class? Now, what's going to happen is it's going to work successfully. It's not going to provide that prompt response for approval simply because at this point, Sam does not have access to anything secured that Emily doesn't. So it understands that Emily has a higher level of privilege and access to files that Sam doesn't. But in this case, what Sam does have access to simply is the sales travel policy. And we see that working right here. So super cool, still trims it even though it may be within the scope of a chat. And if someone has access to something that another person does not, it handles that and it makes the request for approval to be approved, just like we saw in the case of Emily.
So you can learn a lot more about SharePoint agents. We've got the blog, explainer video, click-through demo video, intrazone podcast, and frequently asked questions. So all these links will be available in the YouTube description for those. And I do encourage you to go try it. SharePoint agents are super easy to use.